Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Pumped to be here.
I started this podcast, I think almost 2 years ago now, and we met through Furkan, kind of from you coming to effing. He had mentioned you as like one of the first guests that I should ever like eventually get on. So now we're finally making it happen.
Love it. Go Furkan. What Furkan has built, by the way, here at Founders Inc. is amazing because it's like, I think in life it's so rare that a man achieves his dreams, and Founders Inc. is like Furkan's dream. 100%. I think this is all he wants to do for the rest of his life.
100%.
He's built like a amazing place for people that he likes to come hang out and build stuff. It's all he wants to do for the rest of his life.
100%. It's awesome to even just be a part of it and see all the people that kind of come through and experience like their own kind of journeys within it.
Yeah, I really think of Furkan as like Silicon Valley's Tony Stark, in that what he loves is like building stuff for the sake of building stuff. 100%. And he'd do it alone or with everyone in the world. Doesn't matter, but just he's so excited about it.
That's such a good one-liner, the Tony Stark of SF. I'm going to start using that.
Yeah, it's great. I remember when I first came here, he was like, one of the people that's going to be in the space is this company that's making Wagyu beef using protein molecules. What? And like 1,000 pipettes, and they will drop through those pipettes, one drop every second, and in 2 hours they will make a Wagyu beef steak.
What? That's something.
Yeah. I don't know if where that company went, but like that's the kind of stuff that Furkan gets excited about.
It's like there's B2B SaaS and then there's everything else.
Yeah. And it's so funny because in Silicon Valley, especially if you talk to venture capitalists, they're all excited about B2B SaaS or AI. And Furkan is like, how hard is it to make? Oh, it's really hard. I'm even more excited about it.
One thing that's funny, and I tell him this too, is I've known him now for 2 years, but we'll randomly have a conversation like about vertical farms, for example. And I'll come with my friend whose entire company is around vertical farms, and he spent the last 3 years researching it, dropped out of school, whatever. And the Furkan has like an hour-long conversation with him. And in my head, I'm like, I've never heard you talk about this before. And now you're going like basically head to head with this guy that spent his like the entirety of 3 years.
That's great. Yeah, I was actually having this debate with Praneet the other day around, venture capitalists have this concept of like founder market fit. Right. Where they're like, I want you to have been in this specific space. Let me give you a quick example. Like I invested in this company called PlanGrid. Okay. They were taking construction, which was done through blueprints that were built on paper, and moving it to iPads and into software. Okay. No brainer. And the guys who built it had come from construction. And so they knew the industry, they knew how to build it, and they knew how to sell it. That's amazing. So they had real founder market fit from
sounds like a good bet
from everyone's perspective. And then there's other people who are like generalists that, and this is probably the best example I can think of for that, which is my brother started a company called Native that sold deodorant online. Right. And our cousin asked him one day when he first started it, "What do you know about deodorant? What the fuck is this?" And his response was, "I don't know anything about deodorant, but in 24 months, I'll be one of the world's foremost experts on deodorant."
That's good.
And it's so funny to see that, like, that's a totally different way to think about founder market fit, which is, I don't know anything about vertical farms, but give me 3 months and I'm going to like know it.
100%. When I was first introduced to you, I was told the story of how you founded TinyCo, which is a company that you somehow got the rights to, like Family Guy and Harry Potter and Marvel. But when you were going into that, did you have an extensive background in like getting like rights to things or even like game studios in general?
No. I generally, when I've started a company, I knew nothing about anything in that space. So I've always had no founder market fit. When we started TinyCo, I knew nothing about games and I knew nothing about licensing. In fact, the way we ended up licensing Family Guy, which was our first license, was brute force. It was me and this guy, Andrew Green. And what had happened for us is, so we'd started the company, our business was making mobile games. Okay. We would make free-to-play mobile games monetized through in-app purchases. And the way I started that company actually is a friend of mine had started a mobile ad network. And he was like, "Hey, what are you working on?" And at that point, me and my co-founder had been working on something that we'd worked through like 10 different ideas that didn't go anywhere. We never really gave any of them any time to blossom. And so he was like, my friend was like, make a mobile game. We'll push it to the top of the iOS app store. You'll get 200,000 downloads in one day, and then you'll have a business. So I just listened to him and said, fuck it. Nothing else is working. Let me try it. So we went and did that in 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks, you actually ended up on the App Store and all of that happened?
3 weeks we submitted it, and maybe it was a week or two for it to be approved by by Apple. So let's say 5 weeks.
Sure.
And we launched it. In the first day, it did probably $20,000 in revenue. And so we were like, okay, this is a business now. And the first month, we did probably $750,000 or something like that in revenue. So up until that point, I didn't know anything about mobile games. And then I learned it by trial and error, by hiring people who are experts in that space. And that's actually how we started doing licensing. I hired this guy, Andrew Green, who's really a co-founder ultimately at TinyCo. And he, our business was making original IP games, and the cost of customer acquisition went up so much that we were like, we can't spend profitably to acquire customers. So we would be able to go and make a game and then spend $10, $20 million acquiring customers and generate $30, $40 million, $50 million out the other side. That stopped working. So we were like, how do we get 50 million people to download a game without having to spend any money on doing customer acquisition? So Andrew and I came up with this idea of let's go license a game, license a property where people love the fucking thing so much that we'll be able to just tell them there's a game coming out with this property that you love, and 50 million people will show up to download the game. So we came up with Family Guy, and we didn't know anything about licensing. We didn't know any experts in licensing. So what we did was we just found the right person at Fox and went to them and said, hey, we want to license this. We're awesome, and we're going to be good at this. And they said, cool, let's have a meeting. So we went down.
Just like that. You just went to them. You were like, we know exactly what we're doing. And they had the meeting.
I think you'd be surprised by how much of the world is just like go reach out to the person and make a clear value prop. And if the timing fits on their end of like, that's actually what they're looking for, all kinds of people will respond. The way actually we raised money for TinyCo, we raised $18 million from Andreessen Horowitz. And the way we did that was I cold messaged Ben Horowitz on LinkedIn and said, hey, I'm here in Silicon Valley and doing a startup. We need money. Give us some. And he replied, and we set up a meeting and pitched them. So, that like, I think that whole concept of cold message people.
Like asking you shall receive.
Yeah. And for all of time, like in all of my Instagram account, my Twitter account, I've always had DMs open because you never know who's going to hit you up. And one of the things actually I love about Silicon Valley is everyone has this concept. When they meet anybody, they're like, this person that I'm meeting who is nobody today could be the next Mark Zuckerberg. And so everyone treats the new person they meet like with respect. And so anyway, we cold message Fox, and we did a bunch of meetings with them. We did a lot of great work on coming up with what a great Family Guy game would look like. And, we just did all of this legwork. And then we had Mark Andreessen on our board. We had Mark Andreessen call this guy at Fox, who was the president of Fox, and tell him that, hey, I'm an investor in this company, TinyCo. They want to work with you guys on making a Family Guy game. So that got pushed to the guy who was making the decision. Then we met this guy, Tom Rothman, who used to be the head of Fox Films. And we got introduced to him, and we called him up and said, hey, Tom, we're looking, we didn't know how to approach him. So we were like, we have a seat open for our board of directors, and we think you'd be a great fit. And he's like, what are you talking about? And we were like, well, really what we need help with is trying to get this Family Guy license. The decision's being made by this guy. And Tom was like, that guy has been my protege for 10 years. I'll call him up right now. And so he hangs up the phone with us and calls the guy right away and says, you got to work with these guys. So we just like did 20 different things that made those guys be like, we got to work with these guys. In fact, the call that we had where they gave us the license, they were like, we're afraid of what you'll do if we don't give you the license because of all of the crazy shit you've already done and all the people around us that have contacted us saying you got to work with these guys.
That's so funny. It's like you went you found all different side doors, made your own side door.
Yeah. We also licensed Harry Potter from Warner Brothers, and Harry Potter is this like grossly under monetized IP because, J.K. Rowling is so specific about what she wants.
Right.
And that one we got in a weird way. We went and pitched Warner Brothers and said, hey, we've got this concept for a Harry Potter game. They loved it. But then the deal kind of lost momentum inside their bureaucracy. And then Andreessen Horowitz does this thing where that they call like industry days, where they'll bring in CEOs from different industries and meet with the portfolio companies. And it's great for the CEOs because they just get to see what's coming next. It's like when I get to hang out with you, I'm like, oh, this is the future. And that's how these CEOs feel. So we got a meeting with the Warner Brothers CEO. It was in Menlo Park. I didn't want to drive all the way down there. So Andrew got his pitch together and drove down there. And then was just like, this is who we are. This is what we do. And the guy was like, this is awesome. The Family Guy game you launched is doing really well. Why aren't you working with us? And Andrew was like, we want to work with you guys on Harry Potter. We have this concept that your team loved. And he's like, what happened? And Andrew's like, the deal just kind of lost deal momentum. And so the CEO just took out his phone and messaged somebody on the team. And then all the roadblocks went away and we got the Harry Potter license.
It's so interesting how even like intuitively, if I think that I want to go to a big company and get them to do something with me, I'm going to try to find the person that I'm the closest to on a ladder. But really, it's like you guys just skipped all of that and went to the top each time.
We go everywhere. So we just brute force it, which is like, oh, this person's your niece. We're going to get to that person. This is who you are. We're going to get to you, and we're going to get to all the people that report to you, the people above you, everything.
It's like if you see like Suli has viewed your LinkedIn profile, it's over.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Be careful.
That's hilarious. And so after how long of doing that were you guys like, I'm done, it's time to sell?
We got an acquisition. We got somebody that came to us and said, I want to buy the business. And the mobile gaming is a really hard business. So it's really hard in a bunch of ways. One, you're at the bleeding edge of technology because Apple keeps updating the iPhone. And so people have higher and higher expectations from a fidelity perspective, like how good the art looks, how good the animation is. So you have to keep improving that from a technology perspective. And then you have to be really good at math and analytics to be able to understand, where are consumers getting stuck or where are they dropping off? We have to go build all the infrastructure to gather all that data and then action it and improve the game. And then you also have to be really good at like art and storytelling. So it requires like all these different parts of your fucking brain to do well. So that in and of itself is hard. Then the second thing is competition. There's just a tremendous amount of competition. One of the crazy things is that so many of the employees that we had at TinyCo were games people. They would never go work at Facebook or Google. If they weren't working at TinyCo, they'd be working at another games company because all they want to do is make games.
Right.
And so there's all of these people like that in the world that are like, I just want to make games. So that leads to lots of game developers and lots of competition. And competition sucks. I hate competition as like much as possible. When you want to do things, you want to avoid competition. So anyway, that's the second thing that's hard. Making the games really fucking hard, competition really hard. The third thing is the durability of mobile games is finite. So you'll make a game, people will love it. it'll blow up.
And then people get bored of it.
Yeah, you get 100 million people to use it. Like our Harry Potter game has been downloaded 150 million times.
I'm pretty sure I had it downloaded. Like when I was
150 million times, and I don't even know how much revenue it's generated, but like 600 or 700 million in revenue plus.
Wow.
So that's awesome, but it's not a durable thing. So people play it, they get to the end, and they're like, okay, I've had enough Harry Potter in this format. I'm done. So those three things make the mobile games business hard. And so when we got people coming and saying, hey, we want to buy the business, I appreciated how hard a business it was and was ready to sell. Right. And so we hired this investment banker, Dick Filippini. I don't even remember what firm he was at. I think Luma Partners. And he had sold a bunch of other mobile games businesses and mobile ad networks. So he was the perfect guy to help us do the transaction. And I sold that business in 2016.
2016. What was the first thing you did after you sold it?
Well, the next day I went back to the office.
Okay.
And then people were like, what should we do about this? And I don't know what it is in me, but, I will climb to the ends of the earth when I own something. But when I don't own something, I just can't build summon the energy to care and do the work.
Right.
So I think that's kind of the first thing that happened to me. And then the second thing was I made the most expensive personal purchase of my life up to that point, which is I went and bought a $3,000 road bike.
What? That was the most expensive purchase up to your...
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think for many more years, that was the most expensive personal purchase I made.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel I don't know what to do with my life now that I sold this? It was the second company you've sold at that point. But did you ever feel like the void?
Yeah. I didn't really feel it after the first one because it was small and fast. This one was larger and bigger. I don't know what my, people talk about having a financial number where they're like, I want to hit this number and then I'm done. Yeah. I never had that concept. There's that video of somebody asking Tom Brady, oh, you've won X Super Bowls. Which one's your favorite? And Tom Brady is like the next one.
Yeah.
So I think I always have had that mentality, and I've always had the mentality that my best work is ahead of me, not behind me. But I think there is a real, and I don't think this happened immediately, but in the years since 2016, I've had a lot more of a existential crisis than I expected. I think when I was growing up, I was like, all I know is I want to be CEO of a business and I want to make a bunch of money. That's all I would wake up and that was the first two thoughts that I would have every day for my life, whether I was in college or working or starting a business. And somewhere along the way, I realized that I've kind of done that, and that whatever I expected to happen after, a good example is my brother sold his business and was like, awesome, I sold my business. Where's the, can somebody send me my invite to the rich people island where, Necker Island or whatever it is, where we just hang out and do rich people things. And, I don't know where that island is. Nobody sent me an invite. If you're listening and have an invite, hook a brother up. So I promise I'll pay my own way and everything. So, there is no thing that happens when it's like losing your virginity. You expect that, the next day I'm going to be totally different and life will be completely different. And it's the same when you get rich, which is nothing actually changes. You're the same guy you were, same schmuck you were 4 days ago.
So that might be the most interesting way someone's ever described selling their company to me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think there's been a lot of existential dread. And one of the things I feel like I've realized only over the last 6 months is that making an incremental dollar or $50,000 or $1 million or whatever is not going to change the quality of my life.
Sure.
And I think I understand that mentally, but emotionally, I think I still don't quite grasp it. And the way I kind of think about that is I drive the same car as Elon Musk, a Tesla. I use the same phone as Tim Apple at Apple. I use the same computer as Jeff Bezos. So like the making more money isn't really going to change the quality of my life. And that has created a bunch of new problems because I'm so used to working and building and creating value that like that a little bit has lost purpose for me. Actually, I have this great story of I met this guy who started a company, he sold it, and he started with his brother, and he was like, we achieved financial independence. And so I was like, yeah, what have you done? What have you invested in? What are you doing with your money? What are you up to? You starting a new thing? And he's like, no, I took all my money, put it in the S&P 500 index, and I never think about starting a new business. When wealth managers contact me or real estate guys contact me or startup guys contact me and say, hey, I'm raising money, you'd be a perfect investor, I take none of those meetings. And I've done the exact opposite. Like somebody will be like, hey, I've got a startup. Let's talk about it, but I can only meet at like 2 a.m., in the middle of the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm like, fuck it. I'll wake up at 2 a.m. I got to be there. This is a startup investment opportunity. I got to take that meeting. So I've done the opposite, which is look at every type of investment, think about every type of business I should start. And I don't think I've like achieved the inner peace that he has from a financial independence perspective.
Some people say that like constraint breeds like innovation or whatever the saying is. When you have less options, you can be a lot more creative and get a lot more out of those options. Do you feel like, or have you started to make more like less smart decisions just because you have so much more spending power, so much more access?
Yeah, I'm definitely making a lot of dumb investments that I don't think make financial sense. Like for example, I just invested with Praneet in 5 YC startups from this last batch. Okay. And so I gave you the example of PlanGrid earlier. So I invested in PlanGrid. I invested $50,000. PlanGrid got acquired for like $800 or $900 million by Autodesk. That $50,000 turned into probably 2.1, 2.2 million. But the reason for that is I invested at probably a $5 or $6 million valuation.
Interesting.
The YC companies I just invested in, all 5 are pre-product market fit. They have not yet achieved product market fit. They're all pre-seed deals, and their valuations were 50 million.
Oh no.
35 million, 20 million, 20 million, 15 million.
Interesting.
So no matter how big those businesses are,
the return's not really going to make a difference.
The economics are going to be very bad.
So why did you invest in them?
I just kind of started taking a bunch of meetings with YC founders and got excited about these businesses and was like, I just kind of want to follow along. I think there's also this, I think everyone lives in a bubble where they care about the thing that the people in that bubble care about. So Silicon Valley is this crazy incestuous bubble. So rich people don't buy, Prada shirts or Ferraris. The houses in San Francisco all feel like they're in the same neighborhood. So the price difference between houses in different neighborhoods is like not as dramatic as places like LA or New York. So the status symbols of Silicon Valley are not like those things: cars, Prada, house. They're like what startups you invest in.
What does your previous in your bio say, or like what does your angel check?
Yeah.
Angel in.
Yeah. So people collect startup investments and put them up in the wall, or like the way that people collect cars to show off in a garage.
Yeah. And
that's the currency and status symbol of Silicon Valley, angel investing. So I think a lot of the reason I do it today might be that. Actually, I would say I think it started out that. I think angel investing is a really bad financial investment for most people. I saw this tweet by this guy Gokul who was at Square, and he was like, here's the return of the NASDAQ 100 triple Q over the last 5 years. It's up X percent, like 300% or something. And over 5 years, you get 3X return with full liquidity. At any time, you could go and sell and do whatever you want. Whereas if you invest in a venture fund or if you angel invest in a deal, you're tied up for 10 years.
Yeah.
And the best ones are going to give you 4X back. So you're going to be able to get better returns with liquidity just by investing in the NASDAQ 100 or NASDAQ 50 versus investing in
like angels, venture
angel
funds.
investing. Yeah. Like my first ever angel investment was this company Chartboost. So at TinyCo, I was a customer of Chartboost, and I was like, oh, I'm going to invest because I love their product, and I'm paying them to use it. So I know that if I'm paying them, so many other people will, and then they're going to grow quickly. So I invested $100,000 at some valuation, say like $4 million, probably $4 million in 2011. And then the company sold 10 years later, almost to the day, in 2021. So that 100K turned into $2 million, but it took like 10, 11 years to do that.
Interesting.
Which is a long time. So, I was probably like 29 when I invested. I was 39 by the time I got the money.
And if you're really good at like sussing out which angel investment deals will return, you would probably make more money by just going and executing yourself on like ideas, basically.
Yeah. If you know what startups are good investment opportunities, maybe you can go and start companies in that space. But the hard part about that is I met this guy, Ed Lando, who probably when he was 25, and he was like, I'm a venture capitalist. He didn't have any money raised, but he was just like, I'm a venture capitalist, and then he became one. And he was like, my venture strategy is simple. I go meet as many people as possible. When I meet someone that's smart, I'm like, cool, what are you working on? I just want to own 10% of what you're working on. So he's like invested in maybe 50 companies or something like that. And so now he owns like 5 people, 500% of what smart people are doing. Like, he owns 50 times 10%.
Right.
So it's like owning 5 people that like are doing smart things, and he doesn't have to do the work. Those other people are doing all the work.
How did he convince them to give him 10%? Just like cash if he didn't have money at the time?
Yeah, he went out and would raise some money and eventually put together a venture fund and
take
all that
his own
stuff.
carry, basically.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I noticed you also do a lot of other investments, whether it's in real estate, kind of like more private equity, where you buy the company and then you fix it up.
Yeah.
Which are you spending more time on right now?
Well, I'd say right now I'm doing this dumb thing of diluting my attention across like 50 things instead of focusing on 1 or 2. So I'm doing a little bit of real estate investing. I think it's a great time to do real estate investing. The way I got started actually in real estate investing was with my father. In 2009, I sold my first company, Asgit, made $1 million, and the great financial crisis had just happened. He was living in Florida, and he was like, homes are 75% off sticker price. You can't build a new home for the price that these homes are selling for. It's below replacement cost. So he was like, let's just buy them and rent them out and see what happens. Right. So he was like, send me your $1 million. So I sent him that money, and he bought.
You just sent him all of it.
Yeah.
Or like you sent him a lot of it. Yeah. Wow.
So he bought a house, a rental house, and he bought it for like $140,000. 4 weeks later, that same house was, you could buy it for $90,000. So he'd lost $50,000 on paper. So if I'm him, I'd be like, we better stop. This thing we just bought is worth 40% less than what we just paid. And he was like, no, son, you don't understand. We're going to keep going. So then he bought the next house for $90,000. And then like 4 or 5 weeks later, that house was worth 70 grand.
Oh no.
So he bought another one for 70 grand.
It just keeps going.
And he just like dollar cost average his way to buying a bunch of real estate. And, I didn't even know what dollar cost averaging was. I don't think he knows the term or was thinking about it that way, but he was just like, I'm going to buy all the way down and then I'll keep buying even on the way up.
Nice.
Because you don't know when the bottom is going to be. So, and we bought them all for cash, and then we would rent them out. When there would be enough money in the bank account from the rent to buy another one, he'd just go buy another one. So through that, we ended up buying like 109 or 120 houses, something like that. And we still own them to this day.
No way.
Yeah.
The original meme coin strategy, but physical. It's just you keep buying. It's going down, keep buying.
Yeah, just keep buying. Exactly. And it's been like, 15 years that we've owned a bunch of these properties. And so they just generate rent and that's it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then for the private equity side, I assume it's a little more kind of like thought out in that you probably have a specific type of company that you try to buy, or are you really just buying things you're interested in?
I would buy, I kind of go a couple of different, depending on the day of the week, my mindset changes a lot. One is, going from 0 to 1 is really fucking hard. Finding product market fit is really, really hard. Right. If you think about venture capital as like, we're going to go and spend billions of dollars to go find product market fit. So much of that money is wasted on companies that will never find it. And then, out of 10 companies, 1 finds product market fit. So I thought about it as like, it's really hard for me personally to start a company from 0 to 1. Maybe I should try to buy a company that's at like 0.5 or at 1. And then take that business and improve it and try and scale it. I joined this thing called Tiger 21 that's like kind of an entrepreneurship group. It's a bunch of rich old white guys mostly.
Nice.
So many of them have started businesses in all kinds of different industries that you never think about. And they've all sold them to private equity firms that have taken them and scaled them to a whole new level because the founder was not trying to optimize the business. Actually, here's a simple example. A friend of mine from high school called me and was like, I'm a dentist. I have this awesome dental practice. This private equity firm came to me and wants to buy it. Should I sell it to them? And, he's my age, 40 something. And they were throwing a bunch of money at him. And he was like, this is awesome. I'm going to be the richest person that I know. He already only was working like 2-3 days a week. And so he's like, I'm going to just keep working 2-3 days a week. I don't know how dentists do this, by the way. How do dentists make so much money working like 2 days a week, 3 days a week? Even when they're like 27, they're doing this.
Interesting.
Whereas, all the 27-year-olds at Founders Inc. are like grinding away.
This is why I can't get a dentist appointment.
This is why you can't get a dentist appointment. Yes. Because they're working 2 days a week.
Yeah. Good for them.
So anyway, he got this offer and was like, should I sell? Should I not? And I was like, show me your P&L. And I was like, oh, you work 2 days a week. Why don't you hire another 2 dentists to pick up the slack? You're saying there's all this demand and that you're scheduling people 4 months out. And he was like, yeah, I could do that, but it'd be a little bit more work. And he was like, I've got 3 hygienists that like clean teeth, but I've got space for 6. And I was like, dude, hire 6 hygienists. Let's grow the EBITDA of this fucking business. And we're going to sell it for more. And so I was like, instead of selling to the private equity firm, how about I'll buy it? I'll buy 49%, you keep 51%.
Nice.
I'll pay you half of what those guys are going to pay you right now. And we try to grow it for 1 year. And we just hire 2 dentists and hire 3 more hygienists. And we'll be able to increase EBITDA by 25% easy, maybe 40% if we try really hard and it goes well. So the business will be worth literally 25% more, 40% more, millions of dollars more. And he was like, my kids are like young. I kind of want to spend time with them. I was like, you work 3 days a week. You're spending 4 days with them already.
You only work weekends.
Yeah, like you're literally only working weekends. What's going on? And he was like, no, I'm going to be able to buy this awesome house, and my wife has not been working, and now it's my time to like support her career, and so I'm going to sell the business. And so he sold the like unoptimized but awesome.
So he didn't take your deal.
No.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so I think that there's so many businesses that are like that, where the people running it aren't trying to optimize it for EBITDA. They're optimizing it for their quality of life.
That's definitely.
And, I actually think, this friend of mine is one of my heroes because like I was saying earlier, that everywhere you live there's a bubble.
Right.
He lives in Florida. He's the richest person that he knows. And he's, 42 and he's like retired. And he can do whatever he wants. He's probably in Europe with his kids.
Good for him.
Gallivanting around, his shirt's off.
For sure.
There's sand in between his toes.
You know that for a fact.
Yeah. So I think he is great because he chose the right answer for him, and probably for more people than choose that answer.
But you don't see yourself ever kind of going that route. You don't think you would be able to change that in your brain?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I try to change it. My girlfriend tries to change it. But so far it hasn't like clicked.
So how's the whole hiring a chief fun officer concept going? Did you ever end up going through with that?
I hired somebody, and then I was like, oh, I'm too busy. You want me to go up to Napa this weekend? Sorry, I got this like
random dude at 2 a.m. on the bridge.
Yeah, exactly. I got this random call I got to take instead, so I'm going to skip this.
Interesting.
I started doing like kind of walks on Saturdays or Sundays with entrepreneurs. Like one entrepreneur, me, Praneet, will go on a walk, and I'm like, that's the dream.
Praneet's getting the most out of this.
Yeah. Like, no, I think I'm getting the most out of it, but that's a dream. Like I think might be my version of shirts off, sand between your toes. So that's the problem. And it's funny because I don't think I quite knew that as intensely as I know it now.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend definitely didn't know that when we started dating. So I duped the shit out of her.
So you mentioned this, like even before we sat down, you mentioned the concept of like, you come to SF, there are a bunch of like younger people.
I got this one other story that might be good. So when we sold TinyCo, we had a bunch of mobile games that the acquirer wasn't really focused on.
Okay.
They were really focused on Family Guy, Marvel, Harry Potter. And so these other games were generating a bunch of revenue. And so I went to them and said, let's sell these. And so we went and ran a process, got a bunch of people to bid on it. The highest bid was from this company called Rock You. They bid $500,000. And there was this guy that had worked for me and at TinyCo and had left, and he was working somewhere else. And I reached out to him and said, hey, I think you should buy these. The highest bid is, I actually made him pay $1 million. So I was like, if you pay $1 million, these are yours.
Right.
And you can buy them and you can grow them. And, we'll sell or finance it for you. So you won't even have to pay upfront for it. As the games generate revenue, you can like pay off this $1 million loan. And, here's the 10 ideas I have for how you can grow these. We stopped paying attention to them because they don't hit the like venture math of like, having 150 employees, raising a bunch of venture capital. Right. But for you individually, they are going to, you're going to retire off of these. So I was like, work really hard for a couple of years and you're going to be able to make a bunch of money. And he bought them. I checked in with him a month later. I was like, how hard are you working? Let's go. Are you growing these things? Give me some numbers. And he was like, hey, Suli, I realized that, oh yeah, I could work 70 hours a week and grow these, or I could just work 2 hours a month and do nothing, and they're going to keep generating the revenue they're already generating. And he chose to do that.
Good for him.
So he retired at the age of 33.
Oh, wow.
And the games were generating, $500,000-600,000 a year in revenue, with the only cost being his time and the AWS servers.
Oh, wow. That's solid. And so the thing I was going to ask you is there are a lot of young people, like you mentioned, who are now a new almost batch of people that are coming into SF. Why did you hire Praneet?
I think Praneet Praneet found me more than I found Praneet, to be honest.
Nice.
I like a bunch of stuff about Praneet. One is, his humility. I think that it's so easy to be arrogant in life, and especially arrogant when you're a kid or young. And he's just humble, and he's super curious and super nice to everyone that we interact with. I don't have the he will hear something that somebody wants, and he'll go do the extra work to help that person do that thing. Nice. And I really love that about him. So anyway, I think your question was, let me explain what Praneet does too.
Yes.
So Praneet and I started working together. We met at Founders Inc. He was working on a startup and was kind of over this startup, and I think he might have proposed the idea of let's work together and we'll do whatever you want. And so that was kind of look at investment opportunities, but more importantly, come up with startup ideas of our own that we want to start and go start those businesses, starting with one individual specific business. It's great. Working with Praneet is awesome. I feel like I learn way more from him than he learns from me.
It's awesome.
Which is awesome.
I feel like I've noticed a lot of my friends who are kind of in our age demographic, and I met Praneet, I think 2 years ago. He was one of the first people I met when I started working out of the lab. But there are a lot of kind of friends that I've now picked up along the way that all are in our age group, but they're working for/with someone who's slightly older, who's exited for a bunch of money. Sejal and Naval are a good example. There are, Sam Altman has 30 of them. But you're there's kind of this pairing that has started to happen, and we all kind of make jokes about it internally of oh, you're going to this guy's event, you're going to start working for him next week. Do you have any thoughts as to why that is? Or did this always exist and it's just, we're only realizing it because now we're kind of coming into it?
I think it has existed for a while, but I think it's a lot more prolific than it was before. I think part of it is Twitter's fault. I think Twitter has made it so people are a lot more focused on Twitter is the highlight reel for everyone's professional accomplishments. Right. So everyone sees, oh, this person is doing this other thing. Maybe I could go start that and try and be in that space in some way. Whereas I think 10, 15 years ago when I got to the Valley, there was no Twitter. So there wasn't as much of the, this person's doing this, I better be doing something in that space also. There weren't as many people that were it's weird, in Silicon Valley 15 years ago, people were I'm going to do one thing and I'm going to be good at it. Right. So, I'm going to be Zuckerberg, which is I'm going to start Facebook, and all of my creative energy, all my mental capacity is just going to be focused on that one thing. Everyone
seems to now be doing I'm building a holding company of 8 different things all rolled up together.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know when that became into vogue, but there's all of these people on Twitter that, market that as the ultimate reality of why own one business when you can own 10 businesses? Why be the CEO when you can have 10 CEOs? And I think a bunch of people, including myself, are seduced by that, and so are trying to do more things than I think culturally people would have.
Do you 15 think
years ago? It used to be 15 years ago. People, if you were running a business and you were angel investing, your VC would be how do you have time to angel invest? Why aren't you working on your business? And now it's the opposite, which is like everyone is like, why don't you tweet more? Why don't you angel invest? Why don't
you
you
need a LinkedIn personal brand?
Yeah. Why don't you have a LinkedIn personal brand? Why don't you start a second business? Like all of these things. And my opinion is that the pendulum has probably swung too far in that direction. And I think that there's a lot more value to be created out of focus and building, one or two things than diluting your attention.
I've seen a lot of people figure out one kind of like meta that works on one type of product, and then they get it up to a point where they're happy and they use that exact same meta or like that same playbook on another company. Right now, one of those that's going around is the whole build a product, partner up with a creator, or more in line is find a creator and build a product for their audience and then partner with them. It's kind of similar to me as what you did with TinyCo, whereas like you guys went from building your own kind of games, you said spending 10 or 20 million, but then just skipping that whole process and just building for an audience once you bought the IP.
Yeah, the customer acquisition is often the hardest part of like any consumer oriented thing. And it's so funny because I've seen hundreds of pitch decks for some kind of business targeting a consumer. And when it comes to the go to market, they all will write the most generic at a seed stage. They'll just write the most generic thing of our go to market strategy is like, paid marketing and press.
Yeah. Doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't work anymore. The world is way too efficient. It's funny. I went to this Berkshire Hathaway meeting where Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger talked about their business, and they were like, we could not start Berkshire Hathaway today because when we started it, we would go bid on a business and we would pay 3 times, 4 times EBITDA, and there were no buyers for businesses. And we would pay all cash, and then we would just own the business and focus on generating cash flow from it. And now the world is so efficient that there's so much private equity out there trying to go find businesses to buy. And then they're using leverage and all kinds of financial instrumentation and tricks to make the economics as good as possible, to make the purchase price work, to make the highest equity return. And so anyway, the way that relates to the thing you're talking about is I think today there is like I think something that's further along than the content creating businesses is like the Kim Kardashians of the world creating consumer businesses.
Conor McGregor, Logan Paul, kind of like all of them having their...
Yeah. And so I think that that was huge for a really long time. Like, Skims is huge, Prime is huge, Feastables is huge. But I think that consumers are just going to get tired of like the non-top tier guys shilling kind of mediocre commodity products to the masses. And so like consumers are going to wise up to that and kind of be over this Instagram influencer is trying to sell me this thing.
Even like in some of the strategies I've worked on, we're already noticing that if it looks like an ad, or if it looks like, you have to make it feel like it's not an ad, up all the way up to the point of like not actually naming the product in the video, but then having a virtual assistant account comment, what is that? And then pinning that and then replying yourself. Like you really already have to get creative. And
you have to be gaming the system to like expand the funnel. Cause if you just come out with it, it doesn't work. People just swipe up.
So then now you've had like,
so I think that'll eventually happen with content creators, but I think right now is probably the golden era for content creators to find businesses where they're like, I can push a bunch of consumers to this.
That makes sense. With native, because you had worked on native, I think, in the beginning with your brother. I don't know to what extent, but what was your go-to-market with that?
So native is really my brother's company entirely. He was doing paid marketing.
Really?
Yeah, paid marketing.
And
that was the only is a one-trick pony, which is a one-trick pony in many ways, selling one product, deodorant, in one channel on their website, never sold anywhere else, in one geography in the US, and sold through one marketing strategy, which was paid Facebook ads.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. How long did it run for?
I think he ran the business for maybe 2.5, 3 years, and then he sold it. And then he was at P&G for, I think, longer than he was,
Nice.
like
Building the thing.
yeah, building it. Yeah.
You mentioned kind of like working with your dad. Now you also mentioned working with your brother. What is it like to actually work with your family in a way that seemingly seems like you actually come out of it the other side kind of happy?
I think it's really fun and really interesting. When I call my mom or dad, they will ask me about, at some point I invested in Airbnb. And so anytime Airbnb would be in the news, my father would be like, did you see that Airbnb news? Does that mean the stock is worth more or less? There's some like legislation in New York. There's some attorney, the DA or Attorney General of New York is like going to do something about Airbnb. What do you think? So I think it's a lot of fun for them to be able to engage in that.
Sure.
Whenever I've had a business, the first question my parents will ask will not be, how's your day going? Or how's your girlfriend? Or like, are you having a good day? Are you eating healthy? Did you work out today? They're like, what's the revenue of your business yesterday?
That's nice.
And then when I give them a number, they're like, that's it? I thought it was, growing and on the upward trajectory.
Every Desi parent ever, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. In fact, my father will generally just give me new business ideas and be like, why aren't you, you got the money. Why don't you hire somebody and have them work on this business idea that I gave you this 6 months ago and you made no progress in 6 months. What are you doing over there? So I think there's a lot I think there's a lot of unnecessary pressure, weirdly, from my parents.
Sure.
But I think it's one of those things that me and my brother have been through the crucible since we were kids, and our parents raised us to, appreciate business and want to be good at business. So I don't think we'd be the men we are today without them pushing that. But it is really funny because my brother is like, it's summer right now. Should I go to Europe or should I work right now?
These are the real questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, maybe I can work from Europe.
No, you can't.
And I bet you what he does is he works from Europe. He goes and gets a hotel room in London, and then he just spends 6 hours a day in front of his computer in London working, and then goes out at night. I met this guy recently who's startup entrepreneur, super famous, took his company public, made billions of dollars, and left the company. And I was like, oh, congratulations. What are you up to now? And he's like, before I left, I had a new startup idea. And I was like, you already made it. Whatever anyone in Silicon Valley aspires to achieve, you've achieved it. You have more money than the VCs in Silicon Valley do, more than 99.99999% of entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. Why are you starting a new company?
It's like quit while you're ahead.
Yeah, like you're done. You won the game. It's over. You won the game. You've killed the boss, and you've got the princess, and
go take a nap.
Yeah, you're done. And his answer was like, I want to prove to everyone I can do it again.
Oh no.
And I was like, holy fuck, this is it's crazy that's the way that he feels. It's sort of when I was a kid, we were immigrants to the US, and I would see kids at school wearing like branded, Polo Ralph Lauren shirts and Jinko jeans and all this stuff. And I was like, Mom, I want those. And my mom was like, we don't have the money to buy those. And oftentimes, we would have like 3 or 4 or 5 pairs of shirts, and we would wear the same shirts over and over in school. So people would be like, hey, didn't you wear that shirt like last week? And I'd be like, yeah, actually I did. And so I thought, oh, when I get rich, I'm going to have, massive fucking wardrobe. I'm going to have every brand pair of clothes and jeans and shoes. And both me and my brother, to this day, we'll wear the same, we'll have a shirt that's our favorite shirt, and you'll see us wearing that shirt 3 days a week. So we've gone the opposite where we're like, we actually don't need to, all these things that we thought we would do with money when we had it don't matter to us, because we're not trying to convince ourselves or other people that we have money by buying cool stuff.
And it feels like, you're kind of in a similar position to where the friend that you just told me is, where it's like, compared to 99% of the world, you've kind of like, you've had the exits, you've had 2 of them, you've had a bunch of other things that kind of worked out. You're still going. It seems like you're not going to, you end up on the bridge again at 2 a.m. But like, how are you tactically thinking about the next thing?
Yeah. So tactically, I'm trying to think about it in a bunch of different ways. One is what I work on, I want to be my magnum opus, where I'm like, cool, this is the reason on my tombstone, this is the company name that's going to be on my tombstone, is kind of the way that I think about it. And the other thing I think about is what kind of impact and good can I do in the world with starting the next thing? I think there's this weird thing in society where we celebrate financial wealth, but we don't really celebrate impact. Like nobody is doing podcasts. There's not enough podcasts about like, what good did you do in the world? And there are millions of podcasts about how did you make $1 million? How did you make $10 million? And everyone watches the podcast, including me, watches a podcast of like, how do you make money? Nobody is watching the podcast of like, look at what good this person did in the world. Yeah. So, I want to try and find something that I can work on that's my magnum opus, that does good in the world, that I'm really proud of, and makes the lives of people better. I'm really surprised by how I would think that people like Bezos and Musk would, I kind of described earlier how the incremental dollar isn't going to change my life. So in that sense, I think that's the definition of post-economic. I don't think I think of myself as post-economic, but I think of Bezos and this other guy and Musk as post-economic. And so I would have thought that you would see people who are post-economic be doing awesome good in the world versus, David Rubenstein, the founder of Carlyle, just bought the Baltimore Orioles baseball team. Huh. And I think it'd be way more interesting if he took that money and like applied it to what's a crazy, awesome, good thing I can do in the world. So anyway, I'd love to try and do something that supports other people who are doing good things, trying to build something that's more triple bottom line oriented, where you're trying to have a direct positive impact in the work that you do.
And do you think that will be something that looks anything like anything you've done before?
In some ways, and maybe not in others. Like, I think that people do really get used to using the instruments that have brought them success over and over again. If you had success making a B2B SaaS app, you're going to make another B2B SaaS app, guaranteed. So I think there is a lot of that in me, but I'm trying to be really thoughtful and strategic about what I work on so that it can, it's not limited by like my knowledge and not limited by the instruments or tools that I've used to date. Like I'm trying to spend a bunch of time. I know a bunch of VCs. And so Praneet and I are trying to spend a bunch of time with VCs who do all of this analysis of markets and business models to get ideas from them of like, here's a good furrow ground to go look at and build a company of consequence, so that we can go and dig in that area and find something where we're like, yeah, we can erect a giant internet skyscraper here and build a company of consequence that we can take public and is worth $50 billion plus. So trying to be a lot more that way than my natural tendency is. Like, you know, there's those people in school who are like, I go to the office hours of professors. I was never one of those people. I was like, I'm not going to the office hours. I'm going to skim this book.
Maybe I'll go to class.
Yeah, I'll go to class if it's fun and not too early in the morning. But no matter what, I'm going to get an A in this class. And now I'm trying to be a lot more like, I'm going to go to office hours and meet with people who have more of a purview into industries than I do, and learn from them and use that to figure out what company to build.
From all the people you've talked to in the last 6 months or the last year, what are some of the conversations that have like changed your mind on the world the most?
A bunch of it has actually been personal stuff more than professional. Like, I had a friend who was like, I started a company. I'm an immigrant to the US. I started a company. I sold it, made a bunch of money. My mother had her dream job. You know, she came here, was working at a restaurant. She got her dream job, which was making sushi at a grocery store like Whole Foods. And she did that job for 13 years. She was never late. She never took a day off. If they ever offered her overtime, she took every overtime opportunity. And he's like, I made this money and I told my mom, I need you to quit and do something else with your time and energy. Stop going to work for, X dollars an hour. And she was like, okay, I'll do that. And then she didn't do it. And 6 months later, he was like, what am I doing? And one day he woke up and was like, I'm going to go to my mom's house. And he went to her house and said, today we're going to go to the grocery store and you're going to put in your resignation letter. And that's what happened. And then she retired and has been living, her golden years in the best possible way. So I thought that story really resonated with me in that, like, I love this guy for doing that for his parents. I love that he went the extra mile and actually, like, walked with his mother, like did whatever was necessary to support her. I guess it comes from a place where I'm constantly asking myself, and my brother is the same way, what should we be doing for our parents? And I like that he went the extra mile and like did whatever he could to make the quality of their life better. And it's funny because my brother has done a really good job of this, where he's like, I found a massage therapist that's going to come give you a massage every week on Saturdays. And they come to my parents' house and give them a massage. And so that's something that's like improved their quality of life, and that he's used money to do that. Another was a personal trainer, where he's like, I got a personal trainer coming to the house 3 days a week. We tried multiple times to get like a chef that can come by and cook them food that's like really healthy, so they're not eating unhealthy food. And they've like rejected that because I think they think it costs too much money, even though they have no idea how much it costs.
They have no idea. They're just like, theoretically, this probably costs more money than it's worth.
Yeah, it's amazing because my mom will go to whatever the cheap grocery store is instead of going to Whole Foods. And the only way we've tricked her into having to go to Whole Foods is we'll go to Amazon.com and buy Whole Foods gift cards and send them to her.
It's funny.
And be like,
money's already spent.
Yeah, money's already spent. You got to use these. If you don't use them, you're probably going to lose them. So use them. And so now she'll go to Whole Foods and be like, I got $100 gift card, so I'm going to eat Whole Foods.
Did you ever, I assume you know who Brian Johnson is.
Yeah.
Did you ever get on your post-exit longevity, try not to die kind of movement?
Yeah. I think I'm on that right now.
Okay. What are you doing?
I started this thing, My Body Tutor, where somebody calls me every day.
Okay.
And reminds me to work out and eat well.
Nice.
We got a personal chef that's amazing, that just makes like the best tasting food that's super healthy. I try to work out and do berries at least 4 times a week. What else? I'm trying to do every scan, like pre-nouveau scan, calcium CT coronary scan.
I think I saw Austin Lieberman. I think it was him who did it recently. They went in, he documented the whole process.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, it's great. Like get a concierge medical doctor, all that stuff.
Huh. What do you think the biggest expense that you have now that you have exited your company is? That, like, what is the highest quality of life thing that you've been able to buy that you didn't think would actually be that different?
I think the best thing is I actually just don't think about how much anything costs. I'm just kind of like, it's funny because when I go out to eat at a restaurant to this day, the first thing I'll do is I'll look at the prices, and then the second thing I'll do is look at what is the name of the dish and what's in it. So even though I do that, I'll still order whatever I want, no matter if it's the least expensive or most expensive thing. Yeah. And to me, that's the ultimate luxury, which is like a mindset luxury. I think having somebody like Praneet working with me is a real luxury, where it's like you're able to get access to somebody brilliant and young and who's got energy. That's awesome. My sister was managing all of the real estate that we own in Florida, and she didn't want to be doing it. So I hired like a CEO for our real estate business recently and fired my sister. And that's been great. I think as a family, we're going to go on a vacation to Europe in June, and that'll be just epic. Like we're going to use points to fly first class and points to stay at some nice hotel.
It's funny that you're still thinking about points.
What's that?
It's funny you're still thinking about like points hacking and points and all of that.
Yeah, it's way easier to spend points because you don't know how many dollars they're worth versus like, oh, I could spend $3,000 on this first class ticket, or I could sit in economy for 6 hours and it'll only be 500.
Yeah, but it's like points. You don't know if like 100,000 points is like $50, like 500 or 50,000. Like,
yeah. Like I don't know what the currency conversion rate is, and I don't want to know.
Yeah, I mean it changes like every 5 hours depending on like what platform you use too. So
yeah, it's good to not know.
I have 2 questions left. The first one is, what does an actual like day in your life look like? And for context, I actually haven't asked this question in like 25 or 30 episodes, but I feel like you'd probably have a really interesting answer.
It's actually super not interesting. I will wake up and think about what's the I actually am like diluted in so many different things that I wake up and I just am overwhelmed with my to-do list. And so I try to make progress down my to-do list. I use Trello, and I've got like 100 things in my must-do today Trello list.
And your must-do today?
Yeah. Okay. So I look at them, I'm like, oh, fuck, let me just try this one. And I just do that one thing.
You move that into the must actually do today column?
Yeah. Like I'm doing right now actually column. And then I do that one thing. Weirdly, because since before COVID, I would have the stamina to do like, 10 meetings per day. And post-COVID, I can do like 2 meetings per day, and that's it. So I need to build the stamina for more meetings. But yeah, it's not that interesting, weirdly.
How much of it is like not work related? Like not meetings, not getting on calls, not doing actual like work in front of a laptop?
I will do work related things for at least 8 hours a day.
8 hours a day?
Yeah. Maybe 10.
Maybe 10?
Yeah. 5 days a week.
5 days a week. Yeah. Nice. And then what do your weekends go to?
My weekends go to making sure my girlfriend doesn't break up with me.
It's a solid thing to do on the weekends.
Yeah. So I'm like, we have a dog. And so I'm like, how do I entertain her and our dog? And so we'll go to Fort Funston, we'll go to Marin, we'll go to Napa, we'll try and go on hikes.
Nice.
We'll go to Tiburon, trying to be outdoors as much as possible and present and like not look at my phone or Twitter.
Are you on the whole like social media, Opal, screen time blocker, any of that? Delete the apps?
No.
You just don't need to?
I just let my brain decide. It's funny because I was talking to this friend of mine, and we were talking about like what makes us, we're both like professional workaholics.
Sure.
And he was like, what are the things that make it harder for you being a workaholic? What makes life easier?
Right.
And so he was like, Twitter makes my life way harder. And I was like, what makes it easier? And he said, fat fire on Reddit makes it easier.
How?
I think it makes it easier because fat fire is people who are like,
trying to retire. Like
I made $5 million and here's my life. And I'm so happy. And, the person who's happy on $5 million is like, I've got Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Naval as heroes.
Sure.
And then the people above them are like the guys who are happy on $5 million in my book are like above, the Elon Musks and Bezos of the world in a sense. Huh. And I think more people are going to move into that direction that are like, oh yeah, the quality of life is actually the answer versus pain and suffering, Elon Musk style.
There was a LinkedIn post that went viral a few days ago. It was some guy's like LinkedIn history, and it was like Microsoft for like 13 years, and then out of nowhere, goose farmer.
Nice.
He just left everything and became a goose farmer.
That's great. There's this company I invested in called Lambda School, and
what are they now?
I forget it's called Bloom Institute of Technology.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think I followed it.
And the great thing to me about that was there was a LinkedIn profile that was went to high school, didn't graduate, got a GED, went to community college, dropped out, sandwich artist at Subway 3 years, go to Bloom Institute of Technology, software engineer, Google. So amazing thing about that business is like the impact that it has on people's lives. And, a lot of people will go to business. A lot of people who are already successful or already on a great trajectory will go to business school because they're like, my trajectory is already amazing, but I want to make it even more fucking amazing.
Right.
There aren't enough opportunities for people who are like, my trajectory is not good. How do I make it good? And Bloom Institute of Technology is awesome because it like solves that problem, helps with that.
It feels like there are more and more of these like alternative experience type like education programs popping up, or not even education programs, but like I would consider F-Inc one of them. We had, his name is Arab. He's one of my friends. I've known him since we were like 15. And I remember driving to his house once and we drive past the Mercedes dealership. Now he's like, he told me, he was like, one day we were driving by and he was like, one day I thought I was just going to like work here so I could drive the nice cars. And then he came to F-Inc one day because a friend asked for a ride. He came inside because he wanted to get a water bottle. And then he just started showing up like every single day. He went to Merced at the time, which was a 4-hour train ride away. So Monday through Thursday, he would be at Merced and he would take the train all the way to the Bay, like back to the Bay Area on Thursday night. Sometimes he would end up in the Berkeley like train station. So I'd get a call. I'd be like, hey, can you pick me up from the train station? Like it's 12 a.m. There's like a bunch of crackheads. I don't want to like go the rest of the route. And so he'd crash on my couch. And the next day we'd come to the office. He'd just be here until like 12 a.m., 1 a.m. every single night. The first couple months, he didn't really do much. He ended up getting a BuildSpace internship. And then he started MusicFi, which is like the AI music company. And they did like, I think their ARR is probably like $1 million right now. No, it is $1 million right now. And that was like the first real company he's ever started.
Amazing.
And so now he's done a couple other things, like he just took the playbook from that, like I said, and used it across other companies. But it's interesting to me to see him go from like having a Discord server, clothing brand type thing in high school to then being able to do this. And that story has happened over and over with BuildSpace and other people at F-Inc.
Yeah, Farza's story is similar. Like I met Farza before he started BuildSpace, and he was just like, I'm going to follow people around in Silicon Valley until I figure it out.
Really?
Yeah, and now he's figured it out.
Did you know Sharif? He like slept on Furqan's couch for like 3 months, moved across the country, or I don't know how many months, but he slept on Furqan's couch for a reasonable amount of time and moved across the country. He landed here and he didn't know what Furqan's address was or how to get to him. So we just like called him hoping that he would pick up, and he picked up. And then now Lexica is quite a successful company.
Yeah. I really think Furqan is the unsung hero of that story, because I think Furqan was like, come out here, I'm going to invest in your thing. You can stay in my couch. I'm going to set you up for success. And Sharif and his co-founders may not have come out to Silicon Valley if it wasn't for Furqan. And like Furqan sold them hard on doing it. Yeah. And their parents were like, hey, you're going to like Maryland, school in Maryland or whatever, college in Maryland. We want you to graduate. Like that's what their parents were like. And I think Furkan was like, I'll get on the phone with your parents and convince them that this is actually a better path. So it's awesome. Furkan is such a hero for like doing that. And I wish that, I wish I was doing more stuff like that where I was enabling this like next generation of people to start. And like, it's so amazing what they've built with Lexica. So it's crazy how awesome it is. Reminds me of this story. I met Terry Bradshaw, the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers from like the 70s and 80s or whatever. Wow. And he went to 8 Super Bowls and won 4 or 5 or 6 of them, something like that. So he was like, I got knocked out in one of the Super Bowls in the 3rd quarter, and they took me to the hospital. I woke up 3 days later and they were like, you had a concussion. And he was like, the Pro Bowl is next week. If I play in the Pro Bowl, I get paid an extra $25,000. Whatever. I don't give a shit about the concussion. Send me to the Pro Bowl. Put me on a bus and in a plane. I got to be at the Pro Bowl. I got to make that $25,000. And so the amount of money that he would make was like so little compared to what the next generation, like if you look at the Tom Brady's of the world, Tom Brady is making $100 million a year or $50 million a year, whatever it is, across his like portfolio of making money as an NFL, as a QB, making money from all the sponsorships,
brand stuff.
All the stuff that he's doing. And so like Terry Bradshaw looks at that and is like, man, you're doing the same thing I did and you're making, 50 times as much money or more. And I think that's going to happen in Silicon Valley also, which is Mark Andreessen started Netscape and made, I don't know how much money, let's say $1 billion. The guys who started Airbnb each made, $10 billion. And now the next generation, the Sharifs of the world are going to, make the Airbnb guys look like paupers because they're going to make 50 times as much money as those guys did.
Isn't it also diluting as it gets larger though? Like now a lot of people in the bubble can say that they've made like 5 million in revenue, for example, and you can use that to sell at a multiple. Like, what are your thoughts?
Is it diluting? What do you mean diluting? Like, I think it's great. It's actually that more, the magic of America, the magic of capitalism, the magic of modern society is that it's not a zero-sum game. And so like every time somebody makes $5 million, the entire world benefits because that guy's going to go buy a TV and an iPhone and all these things and spread the wealth. 100%. So whatever is the opposite of the word diluted, like concentrate. It's not even concentrated. It's not that wealth gets more concentrated. It's the world gets better through that. 100%. I think being able to generate 5 million in revenue is awesome and something to be celebrated for sure. I think one of the things that's changed for me is like I think about $5 million in revenue in kind of a couple of different ways. One is like pain per million. Which is what pain did the entrepreneur have to go to get to 5 million in revenue or whatever it is. I think not enough people think about that. Another is, just how durable is the business? Is that 5 million in revenue 5 years from now gonna be there or not? There's all these people who talk about building a holding company. If I was to start a holding company, the way I would start is with one enduring business that is profitable and where that revenue stream, that business is enduring. It's got a moat and it's not going to go away. That allows you to take that and I guess the other qualifier for it would be it can be run by a ham sandwich, which is a Warren Buffett quote. You want a business that can be run by a ham sandwich because one day it will be. So you want a business that you don't need to be a Furkan or a genius to be able to run. Those are the things that to look for when somebody says they've got 5 million in revenue is how much pain did they go through? How durable is it? Do you need somebody sophisticated to run it? The hard part about a technology startup is the productive output of a tech company is innovation. So you're never able to rest on your laurels like Coca-Cola can. And so, like how durable is your revenue and can it be run by a ham sandwich?
For sure. I'm going to ask you the last question that I ask everyone. If we were to do this podcast, normally I say a year, but for you, I'll say 5 years. If we were going to do this podcast again in 5 years, what would you want to have accomplished by then to consider the past 5 years a success?
I think it'd be fun to have, there's a bunch of things Praneet's articulated that he's like, these are my goals in working with you. I think it'd be awesome to have a bunch of those realized. I think it would be that I spend summers in Europe shirtless.
Nice.
And that my girlfriend is now my wife and that we have a couple of kids who are healthy. And I've not made some mistake that has made me go bankrupt.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's it. I've gotten to a place of I grew up with a mindset of scarcity and I've spent a bunch of time and energy to get to a place of abundance. And so I want to stay in that place of abundance and in a mindset perspective. So I think that would be the other thing is 5 years from now, I want to have that same mindset.
Fire. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Such a blast.